Okay. I think we can get started.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, team. Here, first of all, good morning, all. So, in the last session, we were discussing through the SQL language, how it works and all right. So, from today onwards, we'll deep dive into the SQL topics. Okay, I'll share my screen. Just give me a second. And before we go ahead, I was just asking a question. Like, hope all of you installed that Notepad++, right, in your systems.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So the advantage is like it is easy to read that SQL, the queries. Okay, so because it will highlight the keywords of SQL language. Okay, let me know when able to see my screen. Is it coming up?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So this is the Notepad++ that I was talking about, and here you will select the SQL language, right? So with that, you will be able to like read that SQL commands in proper mode. Okay, so let me log in into the system. So so this is the instance URL that will receive. Once you receive it, you have to enter username and password. So there is another option, single sign-on login also. Those things we'll be discussing through the remaining sessions. Okay. So this is manual login. It's not like SSO. It's not single sign-on. Okay. So once you enter your username and password, you will navigate to the application. And as I mentioned, to go to the analytics page, there are two ways. One is from navigator, you can go to the tools and you can click on reports and analytics, right? The other way that we have is after.com, right? After instance.com, after slash, you have to put that analytics. Okay. So these are the two ways that we will use to navigate to the backend page. So why do we need backend? Because the analytics page is integrated within Oracle applications. Okay. So if you want to write any SQL queries and all, you have to go to the analytics page. That's where you will be able to execute your SQLs. Okay. So to talk about the topics, we started with SQL thing, right? I'll share that also. Give me a second. What are the documents you received from the first class, or you're yet to receive all the documents? Because we were discussing that some of the documents you'll receive, right? So can you confirm which documents you have received so far, or you haven't received anything?
No, nothing
You
yet.
haven't received it. Okay, so maybe today we can expect that. I'll
Okay.
talk to admin and then we'll get that done. So once you go to the analytics page, this is the page you will execute your SQLs. That's what we mentioned. So what happened here is you can see a couple of options here. One is home, catalog, favorites, dashboards, and all. If I click on home, what happens? You should get familiar with these pages, okay, while you're working on the BI analytics. So what does it mean by BI analytics? It is business intelligence analytics. You see here, Oracle Transaction Business Intelligence, the tool that we call it as. Okay. And from the Oracle Fusion applications, you will navigate to the BI page. And here you can write your SQLs as well as you can execute remaining OTBI various tools that we have. Okay. When you click on home, this is the page that you will get into. Here, normally what you see is whatever the recent queries that you have written, whatever the recent reports that you have written, if there are any data models that you modify, those sort of things that you can see it at home page. Okay. So the next thing is catalog. What is catalog? The name itself catalog means what? A combination of, or which, where we can store our objects, where we can place our objects, right? So catalog will have, you see here, folder structure, my folders and shared folders. Okay. So when you click on catalog, you will see something like that. So very first, automatically it will take you to the my folders. My folders, what is the difference between these two is the basic difference of my folders and catalog shared folders is whatever the work that you say share under my folders is private, which means if you log in with your user, you see the profile and these things, right? So that user can store their work under my folders, which means they can only see the details that are stored in the my folders. The others won't be able to see because it is not published to others. Okay, it's a private area, you can call it as. Okay, so basically why do we use my folders is, so like let's say sometimes you might be working on something that you do not want to place it in shared folders. Okay, so once you place it here, you are giving an authority or access to others to take a look at those queries or run those reports and all. Okay, so until I'm comfortable or until I'm okay to share them, I'll be working on here. So if I get a confirmation or if I'm okay, then I'll go to shared folders, then I can share it in the shared folders. Okay, so these things we'll discuss in detail. Now let's go to the page where we need to execute our SQL, right? So SQL means structured query language. If I click on create, it will take you to the all the options that we have. So the first section that you see, right, it is OTBI reporting. Okay, so what is OTBI? We talked about technical course content. If I go here, right, we talked about technical course content, right? Let me just take a look. Okay, so if I open the technical course content, then you will see the tools that we have. Whatever the tools that we are learning, right? First thing is BI publisher, business intelligence publisher reporting. Okay, so the next thing is it is OTBI. OTBI means it is also a data extraction tool, but that is used to in a different way we'll be writing those queries. So if I go back to the course content, right, this is SQL. Here I'm talking about BI. If I go down, you have an option for OTBI. Okay, so what is the difference between BIP and OTBI? That we will talk about that. So basically, OTBI will have more graphical manner, which means you can show the graphs, you can present the data in a dashboard manner. Okay, and also interactive links. Like let's say you might be seeing a pie chart. Okay, the pie chart will show you how many how many employees have email address available, how many of are not. Okay, so for that you may see pie chart. You know pie chart, right? The round 50% are having 60% are having emails, 40% are not having. So when you click on 60%, it will take you to the details who all are having. If you click on 40%, it will take you to the other way. So that kind of things that we will do it here, OTBI. Okay, when it comes to BI, here we will be writing our own SQLs with some complexity, which means you will have an option to use the Oracle tables, and you can customize your calculations. So those things we'll be checking through further. Okay, now we are starting with writing SQL, so you have to refer this section. Okay, in this section, what all are you see? First thing is a report. Next thing is job. Next thing is data model. Okay, style. So report is nothing but to display the output in a particular format. Okay, this is schedule purpose. We'll be using this one where we will write our SQL. Okay, so this is the source for our SQLs. On top of this, we will create a report. Okay, next is style, template, sub template and all. It is template designs. These things we can discuss later on. Okay, so before I go ahead, I just would like to give a pass here to see if I have any questions. So let me know if you have any questions, then I can discuss them.
No questions.
Okay, so I'll take it as no from others as well. Let's click on data model. Okay, so once I click on data model, it will take you to the execution page where you can write your SQLs and see the data. Okay, so this is how the page looks like. From where to where we have come. First thing that what you did is you will go back to the analytics. I'm using the second way, that is after slash whatever is there, I'm just removing. Okay, once I remove, I'll put analytics. This is also a shortcut that you can reach, that you can redirect to the analytics page. Okay, so when I click on data model, what is the page that it navigated to? This one. Okay, so here what I do is I'll click on SQL query. Okay. So you no need to worry about this navigations and all. In case of any questions, we'll be providing you with the details. But when it comes to the notes, right, I'll provide you the SQL notes that we have, how to write queries, how to execute queries, what are the different topics that we have. Okay. When it comes to Fusion, same SQL will be using Oracle tables. So please let me know if you required any additional information or kind of documentation related, that will try it out. Okay. So for now, uh, here few things, right? When you click on plus here, when you click on plus, it will give you an option to, so many options are here. One is SQL query, LDAP query, MDX. So many ways that can be used here. Okay. So we can talk about few because we don't require all of them here. Okay. You see here, Microsoft Excel file, XML file, which means this can read the data in these formats. Okay. But for us, the main important thing is SQL. Okay. So when it comes to SQL, first thing it will ask is name. Wherever you see hashtag mark, which means those are all important. Without filling them, you'll not be able to close this window. Okay. So I'll say test query or something. You can write anything. It will accept. It is not necessarily you have to follow test or anything. Maybe I can write anything like employee details, right? Employee absence details, just for reading purpose. Okay. Or for testing purpose, I'm just using test. Okay. Now, the next thing is data source. Okay. What is it mean by data source is, in Oracle Fusion, we have different set of modules as we discussed, right? Financials, supply chain. FSCM means financials plus supply chain modules related queries. If you're writing, the data source that you need to select is this one. Okay. The next thing is human capital management. Obviously, as you know, right, this is for employee related information for all the modules like core HR, absence, benefits, that various modules that we have in Oracle HCM. Okay. For now, I'll take it as HCM. Types of SQL, you see procedural call, non-standard SQL, standard SQL. Standard SQL means we are following the standard format of SQL here. Procedure means this is for the PL SQL, that is advanced the SQL programming language of structured query language. Okay, so PL SQL is used for PaaS database related. So as we are working on SaaS model means software as service. So those things that we will discuss when we talk more about Oracle Fusion applications. Okay, so ours is standard SQL. Okay. So now, very first thing, this is like how I have written and all. I'll explain you. For now, I'll just execute as it is. And we'll talk about what is dual and all. Okay. I'm not using any HCM related tables here. Okay. I'm just using a dummy table. So dual is nothing but a dummy table. So table means what? Which contains rows and columns. Okay. When you come to this particular results, right? See, hey, here I have executed my query, like clicking on place, clicking on OK. My query is ready here. Now to execute this, I have to navigate to the data section. Then what you see here, rows, number of rows available. Okay. Maximum 200, up to 200 you can see. Okay. The tables that can contain thousands of records or lakhs of records, but from the data model, you will be able to see maximum 200. So what if you want to see the remaining records, you have to create a report on top of your query. So in this data model level, you can see maximum only 200 rows, minimum 5 rows. Okay. So I'm just selecting 5 here. And if you see here, it is a table. So it has one column name is dummy, one row has X value. Okay. So now to talk about SQL bit more, in Oracle Fusion, it can be for human capital management, or it can be for supply chain or anything. Okay. So the dual is common. Okay. So as we talked about, what is the data? Data is a characteristic information, usually uh, numerical, that are collected through observation. Data will be in form of rows and columns. Okay. So this one we discussed already. Now going ahead, what is SQL? So we talked about a retrieval thing, right? So in Oracle Fusion SaaS application, mostly, not mostly, you have an option to retrieve the data. Okay. So retrieval purpose, we will use select. What it means, you can only select the data from the tables. Okay. So other than select, what else we have normally? So we have creation of tables, not sure if we discussed all these things earlier, but I'm just repeating. Okay, creation of these things. Once you create any table in the system, you will have an option to insert. Once you insert, you can also update, you can also delete. So these are all normally SQL, at SQL level, these are all options that we have. But when it comes to Fusion, you will be looking into only select, which means it is used for retrieval purpose. Okay. So whatever the data available in the system, you can only retrieve the data. So these things we do not have an option in or while writing queries. Okay. Now you can ask me a question. Like let's say in the system, there are so many records available. What if I want to update? Okay. What if I want to add one more employee? What if I want to delete that existing employee? For that, if you go back to the topics that we were discussing, right? If you go back to the where it is, if you go back to the topics that we have in the bottom, if you go down, we have an option called data loaders. Okay. So what is the use of data loader? Here you can manipulate the data using this. So how these things can be done, that we'll talk about in upcoming classes. Okay. So, but with SQL, you can only retrieve the data in SAS application. Okay. Any questions before I go ahead?
No.
Others, could you please confirm so that I'll be in understanding that you're following. Okay, I'll take it as no questions. So now select is the keyword that we'll be using while writing queries. And there is a table called dual. This is the dummy table. So what we need to follow here is, like, let's say I have I can only use select. Okay, I know the table name. So why I'm writing in 2 lines is for formatting purpose. You can write this in a same line also. Okay. So whenever you want, you know which keyword to use while retrieving the data, you know which table you have. So to retrieve the data, what you have to do is select star from dual, which means if a table contains so many columns, if you say star, all the columns will be coming up. Okay. If you want only specific columns, you can select only specific columns. But in the dual, there is only one column. So I'm just executing as it is. Like, let's say if same query, if you're writing using the HCM table. What is the HCM table that we talked about? For all people F, we have one important table. This is one of the important table that we have. So if we do this, it will fetch all the columns available in this table. Okay. But what if you want to select only few, then I'll go back to the diagram again. If I want to modify, I can click on here. When you click on this one, right, it will enable you the pencil. This is edit. Okay. Click on OK. Again, same process. You have to go to data to see your data. Okay. So here the various these things you can see. So why so many columns it is giving up? Because for all people has so many columns in it. Okay. So how to check the table information? Oracle Fusion HCM tables. When I click on in Google like this, it will give you a link to navigate. So this one we call it as a repository. Okay. Oracle Technical Repository, OT or M. Oracle Technical Repository module, or yeah, module. So technical repository, we call it as. What it contains the information of all the tables. Okay. So when you come here, you can bookmark this one to see HCM tables and views. Okay. So that when you click on the bookmark, it will forever, the tables will remain same. Okay. Very rare cases, Oracle will do absolute of particular tables, which means they can remove some of the table. That time they will inform us. Okay. We will get to know that Oracle will send out communication notifications to each and every client and projects, so that we'll get to know the details. Okay. So now which table we are talking about? For all people F. So when you search for this table, so this will give you the description what this talks about. Okay. So for now, you may not be able to understand completely, but slowly we'll get to know what is the importance of this table and all. If I go down, it has various sections here, columns. Okay. what you need to observe is it has so many columns. Okay. Along with the columns, there is one more thing. It says that data type. Okay. So what does it mean? It has, like, let's say 100 columns. Each column has one data type, which means this column can store all number values. Okay. This column can store all date related values only. And if you go down, there is one more applicant number varchar2. So what is varchar2? In the name itself, you can see character, but this has a feature that it can store both numbers as well as characters. That's why we call it as alphanumeric, this data type. Okay. So mostly you can see date, number, varchar. Okay. These are the data types that you see. So, and if you go back to the select statement, you will be able to see only that numbers. So why we are trying to restrict this is Oracle database comes up with a particular structure. Whenever they introduce any table, that comes with columns, data types, also the indexes. Okay, we can talk more about indexes in upcoming classes, but Oracle has structured their tables in this format. So it will not allow to store anything else in these columns. So storing means what? Using HDL, if you try to update some of the information, and if you try to update a character in number, it won't take, it will throw an error saying that the for syntax error, right? The value is not suitable, or it cannot accept that characters into this field like that, because backend you could see that column is defined for only specific data type. It's not for others. Okay. So that is very much important. And that's how Oracle SQL is very much standardized and also stable. And you could see a lot of ERP applications are using Oracle as a database for their custom tables. Okay. So before I go ahead, I just would like to give a pass if you see any questions. Otherwise, we can move on. So we talked about a table that contains a lot of columns and the data types. Okay. The next thing is we are just writing a basic SQLs, right? So next, what I do is instead of all columns, I just write only few columns. Okay. Person ID. So when you're writing more than one column, right, the syntax that you need to follow is person ID, person number, start date, applicant number. How I know these things? I'm familiar with this table. That's how I'm writing. So and one more thing, what you need to understand is you might be seeing some keywords I'm writing in upper, some I'm writing in low. So you can ask me a question like, so why do we need to write something like this? So always the format that you use is all the keywords should be in a caps. Okay. Following by columns and all. It can be uppercase, sorry, lowercase. It can be init cap. It can be lower also. So which means SQL is a case sensitive language. It doesn't matter whether you are passing upper, lower, or init cap. Okay. So with that, and one more thing that, can one of you go on mute? I see some echo is coming up. Okay. So now coming back to this, and one more question you can ask me, like, why are you writing in this format? So I can write it in same line. So only the thing is, it is difficult to read how many columns this select has. And the format also doesn't look right in case if you want to modify and all. So what I do, select is done. Instead of star, I have selected few columns here. When I'm selecting the columns, I'm writing exactly as it is available in the table. You have to follow that. But it can be lower, upper, it can be init cap, which means it is a case sensitive. Okay. Next thing is I am done with the columns that I need. Next thing that what I'm doing, I need to select from particular table, right, where these columns are available. Okay. So now what is the difference between the line 18 and this one is, here I'm only selecting the required columns. Go to diagram and click on edit. So get this done. Okay. So now if you go to data, what do you see here? Only the relevant columns. And how many rows you are able to see here? 5, because you have set up the limit as 5. So if I say 200, click on view, it will give you the 200 rows. Okay. Maximum 200 it will give. Okay. So if you need more, what do you need to do is on top of this, we'll be creating the reports. Okay. For now, we are just checking our SQL syntax and the basics that we need to follow. So that's why we are just working on data model level. Okay. So The next thing is close. Okay. Let's go back to the document to see what it has. So let's talk about data types more. Okay, so as I was mentioning, right, every table will have data types given, correct now? So what does it mean by data type? It contains the data as per the data type given for that particular column. So first let's talk about varchar2. Okay, so varchar2 is it's a what to say, this can store numbers as well as character values. Okay, so what is the maximum size that we can enter? 4000 bytes, which means 4000 characters, the single character that you call, right? Maximum it will take. Okay, and one more thing is as I mentioned, right, it is a alphanumeric. You can enter alphanumeric values. What does it mean by alphanumeric? You may see the pan card, how the pan card number will come like this. So what is this one? It is alphanumeric, which contains characters as well as numbers. So this type of values will be stored in varchar2. Okay, so you can see Aadhaar number. Aadhaar number is normally how it is, like this, right? So this is a purely a number. Okay, this can be stored in number. Now you can ask me a question: if varchar2 can contain only numbers, so to answer that, yes, it contain only numbers. Okay, so uh, what I mean is it can contain alphanumeric, it can contain only numbers, and also it can contain names. Like let's say the person name is Ramesh, he has other number something like this. Okay, he has pan number something like this. So these details can be exactly maintained by varchar2 data type. Okay, all these values it can store. So that is for varchar2. Okay, varchar2 maximum size is 4000 bytes. Okay, so it can contain the values of below formats. Now what is the next one? Varchar. Okay, so this one has been deprecated, which means you don't see this type of uh, data types coming up now. So they just upgraded the varchar to varchar, from varchar to varchar2. Okay, so it is deprecated. You don't need to worry about this. I'm just mentioned for knowledge purpose. So before varchar2, we were having a data type called char, which means if you go to the tables, right? So here you could see instead of varchar2, you could see a character. So what is the difference between, it has been upgraded from char to varchar? What is the difference? Earlier you used to store only 2000 bytes. Now it's become 4000. So okay, it can only store. And one more feature is at that character it was able to store only the names, like let's say just name. Okay, moving on to the next one, number has two arguments. One is precision, one is scale. Okay, what does it mean by precision, scale? The decimals that you maintain, right? Like let's say 100.3456, 1000 point, like the decimals that we call it as scale. The first one will be precision. Okay, so it will have a range of precision and scale, that maximum how many numbers that you can give in precision and scale, 1 to 38, up to 38. Okay, when it comes to the scale, you can see minus 84 to 127. So these things I'll show you when I'm working on dual table, how this works and all. Okay, the maximum numbers. Here you can store only string, here you can store only numbers. Okay, it is only dedicated, it's not like varchar. Moving on to the next one, boolean. This type of columns, like let's say if there is any column with boolean data type, it can store only either true or false. So I do not remember exact which column that we have in tables right now, but usually while we are working on tables, if you can come across this one, it can store only either it's a true or false, or it can be null also. Okay, now next thing is date. As you know, like we were checking through the columns. So if you see any date column, these columns, it will store the data in the date format. What does it mean by date format? Date will have year, month, and then day. So along with the timestamp also it will consider. Okay, so next thing is timestamp. What does it mean by timestamp? You see after the date 12:15 it is. Okay, so this one we call it as timestamp. What is the format that we followed here? YYY hyphen mm hyphen dd space HH SS. Yeah, seconds it is. Okay, so fractional second precision with local time zone as above time zone and displacement value. Okay. This one you can just ignore this comment. It is not useful. So timestamp is nothing but date along with the timestamp. Okay. Now moving on to the next one, row ID. It is hexadecimal string presenting the unique address of row in its table. So what does it mean is like let's say this if I select if I go back here in parallel PeopleF, right? There is no column called row ID here, which means Oracle will not give row ID column part of each table column list, but every table will have row ID in it, which means I'll tell you. Sorry. If I'm executing this or this one, like let's say you take this one because it has only specific columns, right? So row ID is not part of parallel PeopleF, but what happens if I write row ID here? Let's see. So you need to observe few things here. Whenever I'm using SQL keywords, automatically it is the color is changing, okay, and it is coming in a particular format. So which means what? You're writing a queries in SQL format. That's why the change is happening. Okay. So now let's execute this. So basically, I'm trying to select some columns from parallel PeopleF, but row ID is not part of that, but still I included, which means every table by default, it will have the row ID column, but it will not be coming up in, it will not be showing up in this thing where it is in the HCM column list. Okay. Where is row ID? You see here, row ID. This is what value. Can you help me what sort of data type it is that we discussed above? What sort of data type it is?
Varchar 2.
Exactly. So why varchar 2? It has characters as it has numeric also. So this data type of row ID should be varchar 2. Okay. And as you read through this one also, right? It says hexadecimal string representing the unique addresses of. So what is the importance of this one is it is unique across all this. So even if you can fetch 1,000 rows, 10,000 rows also, for every row backend, one row ID will get generated at unique. It can be a format. You see here the format. Last letter is getting changed, AAB. If I select only up to here, so it will make unique with some format. That is database that is deciding. You see, everywhere up to here it is same, but what is changing? The last letter it is changing for each row, right? So once it is done with W, X, Y, Z, next what it is doing? It is storing the values in lower format. Okay, so somehow it is making unique each row. That's what I meant to say. Okay, now it stopped here and then one more sequence has come up here. This is a different sequence. So here, as you could see here, what is the difference between here? You see, after B, it becomes C. So somehow the every row it will make it as unique. From here, if I select only these values now, Control C, Control F, Control V. For remaining all the up to last digit, it will be same, but last value will get changed. So like that, it will make unique. That's the use of row ID. Okay. Now going back, row number. Row number is also similar. Okay. So if I say row num is also same. It's not a part of column, table columns, but additionally you can write. So what is the real-time use of these things that we'll discuss slowly. For now, you try to understand what value it stores and how it can be present in the queries. Next thing is clog, blob, clob, b file. You see, right? These all are to store the large objects. So here you see character large object. Here it is binary large object. B file is pointed to binary file on disk. So what is the maximum size you see here? 4 gigabytes. Like let's say in our application, if you would like to store any sort of videos, any sort of documentation, right? So for those things, we will be using these data types. It is not like very frequent that we'll come across, but one should be aware of what is the use of this clob, blob, and b file. Okay, so I can show you some examples later stage when we go through some modules, right? Like performance management and all. There you could see this type of things we'll be using data types. So before I go ahead, any questions here on this data types?
No.
Cool. Move ahead.
అన్నా
Okay. Yep, please go ahead.
అన్న ఇప్పుడు మనం టేబుల్స్ రియల్ టైమ్ లో కూడా ఇవే యూజ్ చేస్తామా అన్న జస్ట్ ఫార్మాట్ కోసమా ఇవి
No. Tables will remain forever. Whichever the client that you work, as long as you are using Oracle Fusion application HCM, the table will remain same. There won't be any change in the tables because it's a standard application that Oracle has given to each and every client. Okay. So if you want to retrieve some of the data, you have to use these tables. Now, what is changing is inside that the transactional data, right? Every client have different set of employees, different set of configuration, different set of plans, absence, payroll related compensation. Those things it will store, and that information will be vary client to client. But the writing queries in this format or using tables for our queries and all will remain forever same. There is no change. There won't be any change.
ఓకే
Okay.
ఓకే
Now moving ahead, we talked about dual table. What is dual? It's a dummy table available in Oracle applications. It is not like HCM only Fusion. It's not like that. It is across you can use. What it contains when you run this, it will show only one column, one row. Okay. What is the major use of these things is like, let's say I have a requirement. I'm just giving you one requirement. Okay. I have a string. Like, let's say, let's complete tomorrow. This is my, this may create some problem. Let us complete tomorrow. This is my string that I am having. Okay. Using dual, what I'm going to do is, if I don't put anything else here, normally select star from dual. That's how the query will be, right? Instead of star, what I'm writing here is select this one from dual. Okay, let's see what happens. After that, we will try to execute. So team, what I would request is, when I'm writing queries, please stop me if you're not able to follow or if you have any questions. Okay. So when I execute this, what it shows, it can accept as it is, right? So let us complete tomorrow. That is the string I have given instead of star. Now what it is printing in the here, so column name also it is showing same, and value also it is, because it is a dummy table, it can accept. Now next thing what I do is, and you can ask me a question, why did you put in quotes, single quotes? If you don't do, the SQL doesn't understand which is the keyword, whether let is a keyword or character that you are trying to print. So what it does is it will throw an error. So whenever you are dealing with characters, strings, right, you have to put them in single quote. So if I try to compile, from keyword not found where expected. So what does it mean? From keyword not found, it is saying in your SQL, but I have a from keyword here. Still, why is it saying? Because it is expecting after select some of the columns and then from, but these columns it is not able to identify, and hence it is not able to read this from. So that's why we always put strings in single quote. Okay. Now, next thing what I would like to do is, whatever the string that I'm checking, I just would like to see length of this. In real time, this sort of scenarios will come that we'll be discussing through. So if I say length of something, now what is the expectation? We have given some character, some string, and we are trying to check length. So what is length? How did I use that? We are getting to know soon. Okay. What is the length of this one? 24. So how do you know whether it is correct or not? Copy this to the next here, and single quotes will not be covered when you're checking length, because it is just to put character string here. Okay. Now, how to confirm whether it is right or not, the 24 that you have got? So this is the first position. Okay. Where do you see that position here in the notepad? Okay. What is the column position here? 1. You see here, my cursor is here, this. And if I go like this, it will be changing 9th, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is 24 here, which means in this position, W has been occupied. So what is the total length of this character string? 24 it is. So, and now let's say using dual can be used like for calculations, printing something, various things. Okay. Now what I do is, I'll do some calculation. Okay. Instead of star, what I do is into, like, let's say this is a calculation that I would like to do. So database, SQL is capable to print something, to do calculations, to convert the data. Okay. And we have some functions also, like to do these things. What is the value that we got? 11867114. So how do you know whether it is correct or not? So let's take this and directly put it in Google. Google will give us answer, right? So now go back here. I'm just checking this. What is the value of this one? Okay. What is the value that we got? 11867114. So you can cross verify that. So which means it is it is capable to do that calculation. 11867114. Okay. So dual can be used like that. And one more thing, what is the use of this thing is we have another keyword, that is it can show the date. Date means today's date. Okay. So sysdate is the keyword that I used. Above I did some calculation. Above I used some characters. Now I'm trying to print some value for using dual. So sysdate is a keyword. Okay. So if I say okay, it will accept that SQL and it will show the data. So what is the system date? Current system date is 2024/11/26, which means November 26th. Okay. And it is also showing the timestamp. T means timestamp. It contains all these things. So after T, what do you see? Hours, minutes, seconds, and then milli. It goes with milliseconds. Okay. So here, you might see some difference here. Hours is 11:18 and here it is showing 5:48 because it is the GMT time. Okay. Greenwich Mean Time. Ours is like plus 5:30 hours, right? 5 hours 30 minutes. We are in a forward this thing, right? In time zone. So ours is plus 5:30. That's why the difference that you see, the system time as well as the current, our local time and the system time. Okay. Any question here on using dual table before we go ahead? Anything? So you will be receiving these notes. Okay. The day1 notes. Okay. And you can go through these things to practice. Okay. If no more questions, we can continue for 10 more minutes and I would like to stop there by 11:30. Okay. So let's go back to the thing.
Anna.
Please go ahead.
అన్న మనం ఒకవేళ ఎంటీ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇస్తే ఏం ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది అన్న ఇప్పుడు
Nothing. It will show null.
null. Okay.
See, basically it won't accept without any column selecting here. Okay. So to handle empty strings, we have a keyword called null. Null means empty. Okay. So the thing is, it is just for testing purpose or calculation purpose that we use. See, sometimes what happens, people will ask, do you know dummy table available? Just like that. Okay. So we should be aware the dummy table that we have in the system. See, people just expect, right? Like whether you know or not. Okay. Sometimes people will ask, like, what is the use of row ID, or what is row ID? These are all basics that are available in SQL. So that's why we just started with these things. So if someone asks you like the base level information, right, that you will be aware of.
Okay.
So null means, see, either you have to put it in a number format or you can put it like this without any value. Like, let's say I'm printing like this. This is what you're talking now. Select null. If you don't give anything, obviously it won't fetch anything. So simple. I mean, you're not filling anything in that, right? So it's a space. That's all. You don't see any value.
Okay.
Okay. But if you want to apply any functions, operators that we had gone through, right, those things that we'll be able to do it here. Okay. Basically, it is so flexible so that you can make use for your calculations or system dates, anything. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions, team, before we go ahead?
No.
And one thing I did not mention here, the difference between row ID and row number is it is an alphanumeric hexadecimal number. This is complete number only. Okay. There is a difference between these two things, the row ID and row number. Okay. Now going ahead, select star from dual, that we talked about dual table. We talked about how to use dual table. We also talked about system date. Okay. And we talked about data types. Now let's go ahead with a few more things. Okay. The next topic that we have in the system is in Oracle side is operators. Okay. What does it mean by operators is, as I mentioned above, right, is you can do calculations, okay, kind of arithmetic. Also you can compare the data between columns or the value that you provide and all. So basically we have how many types of operators here? Four types of operators that we could see. Okay, what are those operators? As you are seeing, one is arithmetic, another one is comparison, logical, and then set operators. So as you know, the word itself, it says that arithmetic, which means for calculation purpose. Okay, so comparison, it deals with the characters. Okay, logical means even it deals with the character only, but the commands will be changing. Okay, next is set operator. Okay, let's start with arithmetic, then we can go ahead with remaining. So for today, I think we'll be able to go through the arithmetic. Okay, so moving ahead with arithmetic. Arithmetic means what are the different types of operators that we have? We have,
minus,
yeah, it is addition, it is subtraction,
division.
multiplication, division, percentile. So percentile, we normally don't use this. Let me see what is the best example for this one. But up to this four, actually addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, so how to do these things? See, table, you can put anything, like let's say with the dual or with parallel. Let's try to do some calculations here. Just use select 9. First thing is what? Plus, right? Plus 9. Okay, so I want to print in a next column different thing. What is the next operator that we have? Minus 9 minus 9. Okay, next column I want to use multiplication, 9 into 9. Okay, next thing I want to write 9 divided by 9. So for now, please exclude the percentile. That will not be covering because that will not be working, I believe. So let me just take a look on that one and then I can explain percentile. But for now, what are the different operators that we are using? These are all called arithmetic operators. Okay, arithmetic operators has addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, arithmetic operators. So how to execute this one? I say select from dual. See, here I'm writing in a lower. Earlier I written in a upper. So SQL will accept all sort of this thing cases. Okay, because it is case sensitive. So people can ask you a question, right? Whether SQL is case sensitive or not. What does it mean? Case sensitive means it can accept the various types of keywords that you use, either lower, upper, init cap. What does it mean by init cap? Initial letter capital. That is the init cap. Okay. So this is lower, this is upper, and init cap is like first letter you will put only capital, rest of should be in small. Okay. Now if you go back to the results, first column, what did we do here? 9 plus 9. 9 plus 9 is what? 18. 9 into 9. Oh God, what happened? 9 minus 9, 9 plus 9. Why every time it gave only 18?
Last we comma better.
But it should print as a separate 9 minus 9. Something happened. Okay, let me just refresh and try again. See, basically individual columns right there.
Okay.
So this should be addition, right? This should be multiplication.
Subtraction.
Sorry, subtraction. The below is subtraction. Okay. So this one is multiplication. This one is division. Okay.
అన్న డివిజన్ దగ్గర కామా అవసరం లేదు కదా లాస్ట్
Kaval.
వన్
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, when you use 4 columns, 3 commas will be there, right? So because first one will not be having, last one will not be having, but between it should be required. Okay. So let's click on OK. Now click on HCM. Click on OK. Now go to data. And we just need 5 rows. Okay, no need of more. Okay, now it is working. Earlier, I'll tell you what might have happened is, what is the addition value here? 18. What is the subtraction value? 0. Multiplication? 81. Division? 9 by 9 is 1. Okay. So what additional I have done is I've given a alias name for each column. Okay. But I can tell you what might have happened earlier is it was not able to divide, but it should work even without alias names. What does it mean by alias name? When you're reading your data in data model execution, you will be able to read with this column name instead of 9 plus 9, 9 minus 9 in the headings. So now if you could see here, whatever the alias name that I have given, that one is coming up as a column name instead of earlier. So now what I do is, I'll give you an example without this. So my expectation is that should work like this also. I don't know what might be going wrong. I need to take a look here. So what I do is, let me execute this query also. So how I do, I'll just go to diagram. Instead of removing that one, I'll add one more set here. So click on SQL query. So now how many things? Only one thing that you have to make sure is the name should be different. This data set name should be different than the prior one. Okay. Click on OK. Go to data. Now how many groups you see here? Group 1, group 2. Okay. Now if you go to data, click on OK. So now it is working. Earlier some glitch, I believe. I don't know. Oh, how come here it is showing, right? When I go to table, tree view, what it is showing here, 18,081,1 in the tree view. Okay. But if I go to table view means what? It will show up in a table format. But here the values, something is happening here. Okay. Some glitch or something. But the difference that you need to observe is the alias names that I used is coming up as a column names here. But in the bottom, I did not use any alias names here when writing column names. Okay. So that's why it just shows. So there are two types of view when you're writing queries. You have two groups you have divided, we have given, right? One is G1, another one is G2. This is the G1 values and this is the G2 values: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So any questions here? And you can ask me like, alias names is for only dual or something like that, but no. Even for all PeopleF, Oracle has given some standard column names. Even while printing, if you want to print it as a different, like let's say person identity, something like that, you can write still. What happens is it will override this existing column and it will show as a this with this column name, that output. Okay. So what is the use like printing like this is, in real time, they may ask us to change the column names. Instead of showing like this, I want a different name. Instead of showing like this, I want employee number, like that. Okay. So that's why we use alias names. So, okay, team, I see we are at 11:30 and I would like to give a pass and see if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can wrap for today. From tomorrow, we will go ahead with remaining topics.
మనం alias names inverted commas లో ఇవ్వమా quotes in inverted
Quotes is required. Very good question, actually. Quote is required when you have, like, let's say addition val. Okay, something like this. If I want to do now, what happens is until first column, it will take it as a one single alias name. But in case if there is any space in your alias name, format, sorry, from keyword not found where expected. Now you understand, right? So SQL is not able to understand. Up to one complete word, it will take as alias name. Okay. But next thing immediately here, you should have comma and the next column, or here immediately from dual. That's what SQL expect. But instead of that, what we are passing, there is a space and then we are giving extension of that alias name. That's why SQL is unable to identify the next value as expected. So to do this, what you have to do is you have to put it in a single quote, sorry, double quote. So if you do this, now what SQL does is after this column, it will try to read the alias name if any. Since there is an alias name, you're putting in double quotes, it will take it as a complete word. Okay. Now you can ask me what happens if you put single. Let's try with single also. There is a difference between single and double. Okay. Let me try with single first. That's a good question, actually, because you can what to say, single, why are we not using single quotes, right? See, single quotes, it is not accepting. If I put double quotes, system accepts. Okay.
Okay.
And it will read it as a complete string. Okay. Click on OK. So it accepted that. Now expected column name should be addition val, that you could see here. What is the this thing we have got here? Addition val as a,
Addition value.
okay. And one more thing that you need to observe is the space has been replaced by underscore. That
Okay.
Oracle does automatically. Oracle will not show column names with spaces. Okay.
Okay.
So that's how you can use double quotes, but single quote it won't accept.
Okay.
That's what I tried. Okay. Okay, team. So that's all I see for today. If no more questions, then would like to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining. Let's connect tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.